So the Kawasaki W800 Cafe versus the Royal Enfield Continental GT 650. Yes, it's finally time, so stick around for a few minutes and let's do this thing. What's up everyone? It's Alex. Yes, it's finally time to do the W800 Cafe versus the Continental GT 650. I'm super excited, so let's get into it. But first off, real quick, if you dig what I'm doing here and you dig this video, like and subscribe because it really does help and it tells me what kind of stuff you guys like so I can keep making that kind of content for you. So, W800 Cafe and the Royal Enfield GT 650. Obviously, I own the GT 650 and I've spent some time on the W800 Cafe now. So, here's what we've got. This matchup is way more fair than the Thruxton RS versus Continental GT that I did recently. So this is probably one of the most fair matchups that I've ever done on the channel, especially on paper. So let's get into what we've got real quick, basics of both bikes. So on the W800 Cafe from Kawasaki, you have a 773cc parallel vertical twin air-cooled motorcycle with a 5-speed transmission that on paper puts out about 46 pounds of torque, and Kawasaki does not like to publish or talk about the horsepower rating for the motorcycle, so there's that. MSRP US around $97.99, but they usually go on sale. Continental GT 650, you have a 648cc parallel twin motorcycle, also air and oil cooled, 6-speed transmission that on paper puts out about 47 horsepower and around 42 pounds of torque, with an MSRP in the US, depending on which flavor you get, of somewhere between $59 and about $6,400. It all depends on what color combination, etc. Kind of silly, but yeah, anyway. So as you can see, starting off, the Continental GT starts out about $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper MSRP to MSRP in the US, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So power to power, on paper anyway, the torque is almost exactly the same, and Kawasaki doesn't like to talk about the horsepower on the W800, so aside from people that have put them on a dyno and tested themselves, we just have to kind of guess. But I'm going to guess, due to the layout and due to what it felt like when I wrote it, the horsepower is probably in about the same neighborhood. So we're talking about two motorcycles that are both classic style, both cafe style positions on them. They're both fuel injected. They make in the neighborhood of around the same kind of power, right? The Kawasaki has a 5-speed transmission. The Royal Enfield has a 6-speed transmission. So purely looking at it from that perspective, the Royal Enfield should just outright win, right? Well, not quite. So here's the thing, from personally riding them both, the Royal Enfield really starts making most of its power more in the middle to upper range of its RPMs, okay? Whereas the W800 felt like it made a lot more of its power down low to middle. Like the W800 felt more powerful off the bottom through the middle and then seemed to kind of fizzle out when it got up towards the top. Maybe that was just my experience with it, but that's what it felt like to me. Whereas the Royal Enfield feels a little bit sluggish off the bottom and then really wakes up as you start getting up in RPMs a little bit. The Royal Enfield's 6-speed transmission also, to me, felt a lot closer together. The gears felt much closer together than the 5-speed on the Kawasaki. So as the Kawasaki is a 5-speed, the gears seem to be spaced a little bit more. They were a little bit taller than on the Royal Enfield. I will also say that both of them had buttery smooth transmission, so you really can't shake a stick at either one of them for that. We'll also say the W800 was considerably more buzzy than the Royal Enfield is. Meaning once I got over maybe 25-30 miles an hour, from there to about 60 or 70 miles an hour, there was a decent amount of just overall, the best way to describe it is overall buzziness from the W800. Didn't really bug me, it's just something to mention. The W800 does have some buzziness to it, whereas I basically have never experienced that whatsoever with the GT 650. And I think that could be a major difference in just the way the engines are laid out, just the way everything runs and the way it's all put together. Nothing wrong with it, but it is a difference in the motorcycles. The only other big difference to me between the two of them is the way that you sit on the motorcycles. Even though they are both cafe position bikes, if you sit on both of them, most people sit on them right next to each other or sit on them, you know, within a short amount of time, you will notice a big difference in the way the bikes feel. The foot peg position is different on both motorcycles, and the handlebar position is definitely considerably different, even though they're both downward cafe style bars. The GT650 has clip-ons on it that come down at more of an angle. The W800 has club style handlebars on it that go down in a sporty riding position, but they go down and then out a little bit more flat. So for different people, that will be comfortable in different ways. I am more comfortable in the GT650. As I mentioned in my W800 Cafe review, the style and the seating position on that bike, for whatever reason, tends to put more pressure on my wrists than the GT650 does. For other people, that may be more comfortable because it also puts you slightly more upright. So that's something to keep in mind. So when you boil it all down to it, here's what you're really dealing with these two bikes compared to each other, okay? You're basically looking at a Kawasaki and a Royal Enfield that for all intents and purposes serve the same kind of riding, the same audience, the same idea. The Kawasaki is a 5-speed, whereas the GT650 Royal Enfield is a 6-speed. The power is about the same, and the riding position is a little bit different. To be completely honest with you, for the intended riding purposes of these bikes, it is all going to come down to which one you fit on better and what kind of deal you can get. If you're looking straight retail to retail, the Royal Enfield GT650 is just an absolute clear winner in the fact that it starts off $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper than the Kawasaki. And I know a lot of people are going to say that, well, the Kawasaki has a nicer fit and finish. It looks better, it's higher quality. Look, the Royal Enfield 650s are building a very proven track record for quality, so I don't want to hear the quality argument quite so much. Fit and finish is subjective. The Kawasaki may have a better overall fit and finish, okay? It does not have a $3,000 to $4,000 better overall fit and finish. So if the price difference to you in your area is $3,000 to $4,000, I think most people will be much happier with a Royal Enfield GT650. That being said, in most areas, including mine, right now, dealers are sitting on and stuck with W800 Cafes because they were so expensive to start with. So most dealers on a W800 Cafe Kawasaki will make you a pretty sweet deal on one. The dealers in my area are selling them for about $6,900, so that gets them pretty close. You know, if they get down to where they're within about $1,000 of the Royal Enfield 650, then it's all going to come down to your personal preference. If you like the seating position better on the Kawasaki, and if you think that the fit and finish is better on the Kawasaki, $1,000 more or $800 more, whatever it is, that's a decision you have to make. I could see that being a much better argument. So if the Kawasaki is on sale in your area that puts it within reasonable price distance of the GT650, then hey, it's a toss-up. It's whichever one you're more comfortable on. Really, in general, it's whichever one you're more comfortable on anyway. But for $3,000 to $4,000, I could make myself more comfortable on about anything, okay? So that's it. That's the two of them in a nutshell, and that's my thoughts on them versus each other. Straight retail to retail, I bought the one that I bought because it was an amazing value for what you get with the motorcycle, and I have been absolutely in love with it ever since. I also did really enjoy the W800, okay? And they're so close together that if you can get them for about the same money, you need to sit on both of them. Whichever one fits better, you will be happy with. W800, fantastic motorcycle. W800 Cafe, same thing but in a cafe. GT650, fantastic motorcycle, okay? Sit on them both. If they're close in price, pick the one that feels better. If they're not close in price, this one's the better value. That's just all there is to it, okay? Hope that helps. I'm Alex. Peace.